and welcome to my channel. My name is Elunic and today I am building a Viking farm. This build is kind of more of a fiction because you can't really say that this is how a Viking farm would actually look like, because if you look at images of the Viking farm, they don't have houses like the ones that I'm building here. This is more inspiration build from the time, and also of course inspiration from one of our known build, Stav Church, if you know what that is. I ended up making a little bit of a mix of a fiction because when I look at a lot of stuff that represents Vikings, it is the Stav Church, at least in Sims build that I have seen. I have seen some builds where they actually do try to make it look as real as possible, but then again you don't really see it. So even though I love it that people make it the way it is supposed to be, I also kind of want to make this into more of a fantasy build, just like it's inspired from an area that I'm interested in. The Stav Church, or Stavkirke, as we say in Norwegian, is quite interesting really, because you can find them in different sizes, not so very different shapes. Those are quite similar, but I think they're quite interesting in the way that they are made. In Norway now, it's not many left from this time when they entered the area, and I know there were a lot of them, maybe 2,000 churches at one point, but because you had the Black Death and different reasons to why so many of them disappeared after a while. But anyway, I wanted to use some of the details from that time, so that's why this build is kind of a mix of a bit of it. It doesn't look exactly like it, I know, but I don't know, I just felt like using a few details from it to make it look more like a mix of the Stav Church and a little bit of reminding of an Viking ship. First I actually wanted to make a Viking ship, but it's kind of difficult to get that shape to it in Sims, so that's why I ended up in using this form of style that I do. There have been different theories about the origin of the Stav Church. One question is whether the Stav Church were created under the culture influence from the outside. When you look at the different Stav Churches, what I mean that they are different is because you can find a similarity to all of them, but the small changes can be not only the architecture itself, they are mainly based on tradition in the local area. So you have the similarity to the fact that this is a Stav Church, but you have the tradition from the location it's been built. The Vikings lived in a long, narrow building called Longhouse. In Norwegian we call it Langhus. This was mainly made out of wood, but I know there is found probably some of stone as well. Viking families lived in the central hall part of the building, and rooms were split up into different pieces. One part of the house could be used as a barn and kept cattle and horses in the winter, as long with storage for crops and tools. It was important to preserve and store food for the winter and spring when fresh food were gone. Fish, fowl and meat were dried, salted and smoked. Vegetables and fruits were dried and stored for the winter, and the grain that was made into flour were made into bread, which were preserved and stored as well. In my build I decided to use a wooden floor inside of the house. Even though they didn't have a wooden floor back then, they actually had pounded dirt inside of their houses. In the center hall, built-in benches supported the walls. and they use this for platforms for sitting and working and sleeping. In the center of the house, they of course had their fire area where they did their cooking. It was a lighting and it was heating. And if the family wasn't busy working outside, they would gather around the hearth, talking, weaving, maybe making baskets and listening to stories. Since there were no windows on these different longhouses that they had, of course you would expect it to be smoke inside the house, seeing how they would have a fire pit inside of the house. But they had gaps in the rooftops, so the smoke would get out, so they wouldn't have it inside of the building itself. This of course also gave them some extra lighting during the day. The longhouse came in different sizes. It all depended on how wealthy you were. So if you were a really wealthy farmer, you could also have an outbuilding, which might have served as a barn for animals, storage for crops, tools, and used for workshops, or a forge for a blacksmith. But the longhouse was bigger than the houses in a Viking town. It was a few towns, and the houses here were more rectangular than long. For us, the longhouse would seem maybe noisy, dirty and smelly, since you have all the animals sheltered in one end. However, to the Vikings they were no doubt crowded, but also warm, cozy and comfortable. They ate food they could produce from their farm. They went hunting, they went fishing, even salt water fish and freshwater fish. I think they also did some ice fishing, and 20% of their diet was from fishing. Even though they didn't have all the fresh food in the wintertime, they have found out that they didn't lack the vitamins and the minerals that they needed, which is interesting. They had different types of grains as barley, rye and oats, and wheat if they could. It all depended on the local climate and the soil conditions, really. At vegetables they had beans, peas, cabbage, onions and wild greens. Of course also berries and fruits and nuts. I know hazelnut was one of the favorite, and they used to dry up the fruit and the berries and would pour honey on top of it, and honey is probably the closest they could get to sugar at that time, so it probably tastes delicious. I don't know, I haven't tried. From the honey they also could make a strong beverage called mead. This was one of they used to drink for festivals and stuff, so you can see in a lot of different movies where they use meads at the parties, and beer is probably something they would use more for normal kind of drinks, and this is from barley, which were more a grain that you can find all over the place. Seeing how it grew really well up in the northern climate, so they would have bread, stews and porridge as well. Depending on the local climate and soil condition, vegetables such as beans, peas, cabbage and onions could be grown. They had grains such as barley, rye and oats. And if they were lucky, they could have the luxury crop, wheat. This is probably more in the area where the weather was a little bit nicer. When it comes to the different animals that the farmers had back then, you find animals as cows, horses, oxen, goats, pigs, sheep, chickens and ducks. Of course, when it comes to the cattle, they of course had the cows and the bulls, but they didn't really keep that many bulls. They were more for breeding, and then became slaughtered and became meat for the winter. So the cow itself might be kept for longer. It can be kept for at least maybe 10 years because they drank a lot of milk. They really did enjoy that, and they used milk for many kinds of different meals, just like today. During the winter time, some of the cows were kept inside and fed. If they were left out, they probably would starve to death because back then the climate was a bit different than it is today. So you may say that cows and cattle kind of became their number one. Sheep were raised for their skin, their wool, and of course also milk and the meats. Like with the cattle, the sheep were driven to higher pastures in the summer where they were allowed to roam free. In the fall, the farmers in the region would work together to round up the sheep and sort them out. This is something that they do today in Norway, just as they do in many other countries, so this isn't really uncommon. The horses that raised were not only kept for travel and transport, but also because of the meat. It was pricey, and it was an expensive part of the diet. And when they sacrificed to the gods, they used horse meat, and they would eat this horse meat as a part of the festival ceremony. But when Christianity was adopted, the eating of horses became banned. They also had animals as cats and dogs. Yeah, just like any other farmer. I hope you enjoyed my video about the Viking facts. I know the house itself is not facts, but this was more of a fiction build because, as I said earlier, I want to do something similar to Stav Church, but not completely. And I kind of got a little bit of inspiration of watching so many different images from recreation of longhouses and Viking cities, and of course fancy arts, and then you have star churches, and they also are in a different they have of course a similarity to all of them. They have the same style and all that stuff, but they are not all completely 100% the same style, and I felt that was kind of something that I enjoyed watching, so that's also why I decided to make my farm into something fiction, but also inspired by the images that I've been watching. If you're interested in the facts about how the Viking actually did live, there are cities that they have built up that you can actually go visit. So there are a lot of different pages you can go to and places you can go to and actually see these different places. It's quite interesting. I know they also have shows, at least here in Norway. In Stavanger, I know they have like they set up every year this show where you can see how they were, how they lived, how they talked. Maybe not how they talked. That probably would have be a little bit different to understand and difficult to understand. But yeah, it's quite interesting. So I would recommend that you go and check it out. Also, I would absolutely recommend that you read about the subject. I kept it light today because I felt I tried to stay to the theme that I was building, which was a farm, so that's why I kept it light on the food. And I didn't pick up all the animals and everything like that because in the Sims you don't have all that, so I decided to use what I could actually have from the game. I hope you enjoyed my little spin over the Viking farm, and so if you wish to see more of this, please give me the thumb up and I will see what I can do. And please give me a note in the note box below for if you have anything you would like me to try and build or talk about. I also do some streaming sometime on Twitch if you want to come over and hang out. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, that would be super nice. And I'll see you in my next video. So bye everyone!
började sjunga. Bergatrollet friade till fagerunger Sven. Hon hade en falskeliger tunga. Herr Mannelig, tro loven i mig. För det jag bjuder så gärna. I kunden väl svara endast ja eller nej. Om i viljen eller ej. Heder vill jag giva de gångare 12 som gå ut i rosende lunde. Aldrig har det varit någon sadel upp på den, ej heller betsel ut i munnen. Herr Mannelig, tro loven i mig. För det jag bjuder så gärna. I kunden väl svara endast ja eller nej. Om i viljen eller ej. Heder vill jag giva de kvarnarna 12 som står mellan Tillö och Tärnö. Stenarna det är av rödaste guld och julen silverbeslagna. Herr Mannelig, tro loven i mig. För det jag bjuder så gärna. I kunden väl svara endast ja eller nej. Om i viljen eller ej. Heder vill jag giva ett förgyllande svärd som klingar utav 15 guldringar. Och strida hur du i strida vill. Stridsplatsen skolen i väl vinna. Herr Mannelig, tro loven i mig. För det jag bjuder så gärna. I kunden väl svara endast ja eller nej. Om i viljen eller ej. Heder vill jag giva en skjorta så ny. Den bästa i lysten att slita. Inte är hon sömmad av nåd eller tråd, men virkad av silken det vita. Herr Mannelig, tro loven i mig. För det jag bjuder så gärna. I kunden väl svara endast ja eller nej. Om i viljen eller ej. Sådana gåvor jag toge väl emot. Om du vore en kristelig kvinna. Men nu så är du det värsta bergatroll av näcken så djävulen stämma. Herr Mannelig, tro loven i mig. För det jag bjuder så gärna. I kunden väl svara endast ja eller nej. Om i viljen eller ej. Bergatrollet ut på dörren sprang. Hon rister och jämrar sig svåra. den fagerungersvän så hade jag mistat min plåga. Herr Mannelig, tro loven i mig för det jag bjuder så gärna. I kunden väl svara endast ja eller nej, om i viljen eller ej.
Trøllabundin galdrar med vår fäste med.
ljóts bið ég allar helgar kyndir meiri og minni möguheim dalar vilt vad jag van föder vel fyrtälja Fornsmjögl fyra þá fremst mann Hár var alla það í mér byggði Vara sannur nje sær nje svala haunni Jörð var eigin ég upp hímin Gott var ginnunga en gråsvergi Soltör sortna sig follimar Kvörv av himni heidar stjörnor Gæsar eimi við aldrnara Lækrár híti við hímin sjálfan bræður mun